Welcome to Informatica Cloud 101 on-demand course. This module covers the various types of endpoints that are supported in Informatica Cloud, as well as how to create, edit, and manage connections. After completing this module, you will be able to understand what a connection is, understand the various connection types in Informatica Cloud, and what information is required for each. Create a connection, edit a connection, and delete a connection. In Informatica Cloud, there are two types of connectivity, or connectors available when you create a connection. There are native connections and add-on connectors. Native connections are connection types that come out of the box with Informatica Cloud. Examples of these connections would be flat files, Salesforce, and SQL Server. These connections are available in the product and do not require any additional setup. Add-on connectors are additional connectors that are generally available to all Informatica Cloud customers. To use these connectors, they must be added to your Informatica Cloud org and will count as an additional endpoint. The list of what's available in terms of these add-on connections is growing all the time. We have an Informatica Cloud Labs group within Informatica that is dedicated to building these connectors. Here are some examples of each type of connector. For the purpose of this training, we are going to focus on the native connectors. Again, the list of add-on connectors is updated regularly, as new connectors are constantly being built. A connection is an Informatica Cloud object that defines a connection to a cloud or on-premise application, database, or flat file. Connections are used to specify the sources and targets or endpoints for data integration tasks. So here are the native connection types in Informatica Cloud. Flat file, FTP, and secure FTP. These functions are very similar to flat file, and the only difference is that the file is on a remote machine. SQL Server, Microsoft Access, Oracle, MySQL, supporting versions 5.0 and above. ODBC, Salesforce, SAP, Web Service, and Microsoft Dynamics CRM. Salesforce Connections allow you to securely read data from or write data to Salesforce sources or targets. You can use Salesforce Connections in any type of Informatica Cloud task. To access Salesforce, we access via API. So Salesforce puts into place an extra layer of security in terms of accessing via their API. So you would have to either have a security token or you could add Informatica Cloud Server as well as any machines running the agent as trusted IP ranges in your Salesforce account. The security token is an automatically generated key from Salesforce. To get the security token, you need to log into Salesforce. And then there is a button you can click to reset the account security token. The email address that is associated with the user record in Salesforce would get the new security token by email. You would then need to copy it from the email and paste it into the Salesforce connection properties in Informatica Cloud. Note that the security token is valid until a user requests their security token, changes their password, or has their password reset. Security tokens are tied to a user and can expire. So if you change your password, for example, you will have to generate a new user token. So as an alternative, to use a security token, you can use the Salesforce Trusted IP range. For step-by-step instructions on how to do this in Salesforce, as well as get the IP address range for the Informatica Cloud servers, you can check the Informatica Cloud online help or the community site. As a best practice, we recommend that you set up a Salesforce user as a dedicated data integration user. Then when you create your Salesforce connection in Informatica Cloud, that user would be the one you would use for the Salesforce connection. We recommend this because when you create records in Salesforce via Informatica Cloud, the Salesforce user specified in your Informatica Cloud connection will show up on all records as a record owner. Also, when you modify records via Informatica Cloud, the user will be listed in the last modified by field. Now the record owner is something that you can have change as a part of the data integration job. However, the last modified by field is not something you have access to because it is set by Salesforce. It is not something that everyone wants to do because you would be paying for an additional user license. But it is a best practice that we wanted to mention. When you set up your Salesforce connection, you put in your username and password, and optionally you will add the security token. By default, the service URL field is filled in for you when you create a new Salesforce connection in Informatica Cloud. You should never need to change this URL unless you want to connect to a Salesforce sandbox instead of a production org in Salesforce. In this case, you would replace the www with test as shown in the example here. When you create a flat file connection, you must also specify the following properties. The secure agent that Informatica Cloud uses to access the flat file in the local area network. The directory where the flat file is stored. Enter the full directory or click Browse to locate and select the directory. The date format for date fields in the flat file. The code page of the system that hosts the flat file. Select MS Windows Latin 1 for ISO 8859-1, Western European data, and UTF-8 for Unicode data. You can use ODBC Connections if Informatica Cloud does not provide a native driver for your database. These are ODBC drivers for all the different databases that you would want to connect to. And there are also some ODBC drivers available for applications, in some cases. For any of you that are not familiar with ODBC, it stands for Open Database Connectivity, and it is just a standalone interface for accessing a database management system. An application can use ODBC to query data from a database management system, regardless of the operating system or database management system it uses. ODBC accomplishes this independence by using an ODBC driver as a transition layer between the application and the database management system. We also support FTP and secure FTP connections. FTP connections allow you to extract data from or move data to a flat file on a remote machine. Secure FTP connections use secure protocols, such as SSH, to access source and target files. When you work with FTP or secure FTP connections, you need to define a local and a remote directory, and the file structures must match. The remote directory is the location of the files you want to use as sources or targets. The local directory is a directory local to the secure agent that contains a copy of the source or target files. When you configure a task with FTP or secure FTP connection, Informatica Cloud uses the file structure of the local file to define the source or target for the task. The local file gets used for the metadata, and Informatica Cloud uses the local file to generate data preview. If the data in the local file does not match the data in the source or the target files in the remote directory, data preview can display inaccurate results. FTP and secure FTP connections are commonly used in business-to-business scenarios, where you're exchanging data with a business partner at regular intervals. For example, maybe you're going to get data once a day from your partner that you would then load into Salesforce. So instead of having them send you a file, you could use the FTP connection to access the data file directly on your partner's machine. You can create connections in Informatica Cloud in one of the following ways. First, from the Administrator Services, choose Connections. Or on the fly via the wizard as you are configuring a task. For example, from the Data Synchronization Task Wizard. In both cases, the connection becomes available to the whole org, so all users in that org will be able to see and use that connection. Later in the course, we will talk about a feature called fine-grained security, which allows you to lock down certain objects in your org. Keep in mind that if connection depends on an agent, which is all types of connections except for SaaS applications, you will need to install the agent first. I will now demonstrate how to view a list of connections edit, copy, and delete a connection. I will also show you how to create a connection and set the connection properties. In this demo, we will set up a connection for a Salesforce.com instance. Before beginning this demo, we have already created a developer account with Salesforce.com. Informatica Intelligent Cloud Services accesses Salesforce.com via the API. Now we will create a Salesforce connection in Informatica Cloud. Log in to the Informatica Intelligent Cloud Services and select Administrator Services. Navigate to the Connections page. To create a new connection, click the New Connection button. The New Connection page appears. Enter the connection name and select Salesforce from the Type drop-down. Select the Secure Agent Group from the Runtime Environment drop-down. From the Salesforce Connection Type drop-down, select Standard. Enter the Salesforce credentials and paste the Salesforce.com security token in the Security Token field. To test the connection, click the Test Connection button. A message, "The test for the connection was successful," appears. Click Save to save the connection. A message, "Connection saved successfully," appears. This concludes the demo. As I mentioned earlier, to use the add-on connectors, they must be added to your Informatica Cloud org. Before you do use one of these add-on connectors, it is a good idea to review the documentation, which is all housed on our community site. Now I just want to show you where to add connectors and review documentation on community site. Now we will see how to access the connectors on the Connectors page. Go to the Administrator Services page and select Add-on Connectors. We can see all the available connectors on this page. This concludes the demo. In the first lab, you are going to create a Salesforce connection for your developer org. In the second lab, you are going to create a flat file connection on your local machine. This concludes Module 3. This module showed you how to understand the type of connections that are available in Informatica Cloud. Create a connection, edit a connection, and delete a connection.